thank you everyone for coming. I know it's difficult to take time out and to do something like this, and very much appreciate you taking that time and welcoming me here. We're going to have two different demonstrations today. One is Intense Boost, which is a completely separate service from Kerastraight, but linked through the technology and through the potential that it could bring a Kerastraight Ultimate client to your salon as well. It's not just for Kerastraight Ultimate clients, it can be for your entire clientele, and we'll come to how and why a little bit later. And the other demonstration will be the Kerastraight Ultimate, and I want to show how we at Trevor Sorbie approach it. So even though I'm here on behalf of Kerastraight, representing Kerastraight as global ambassadors, it's about some of the things that within the salon we've picked up, and we have little bits that actually, it says this is what you do, but there's this side of it and there's this side of it. And it's very much in the way that we use products from colour manufacturers. There's an instruction of you do this, you leave it for this long, and then you take it through for this long. Yet every single one of us here will have record cards with took it through for 2 minutes, added a bit of this in the end, needed a bit longer for grey cover, all of those little bits that we do every single day, and we do it without even thinking. And what we want to build today is a confidence in Kerastraight, something that enables you to get the very most from it, but more importantly, for the client to get a personalised and individualised result that works for them and their requirements. The whole process begins with consultation, and we have had a very brief chat already about our two models. My mind has gone completely blank and I can't remember it, so I will let them introduce themselves. You are?
Joe.
Joe. How can I not remember that? And
I'm Eloise.
Eloise. So Eloise and Joe. If I need help on that, then just correct me if I get it wrong. Now, the reason we're starting off with both our models up here is because they represent to me the two polars of who Kerastraight is for. So we have Joe, and please don't be offended when I'm describing, because I have to get right down to the nitty gritty. Joe has very fine hair. The ends feel very dry. They feel like they could be a bit brittle, and the hair is coloured. There's a little bit of that sort of natural sparkle that we get, known as grey, just here and there. And in general, it's the sort of hair that, for some people, they're looking at, I don't know if we should do the Kerastraight on that. You know, it's that sort of an immediate, like, you have that intake of breath as you walk over to the client sitting in the chair, and you're not sure if that's what you're going to do. At the other end of that pole, we have Eloise, who has what a lot of people look at as being an absolute perfect candidate. She's got big hair. If we spin her round, it's that hair that you split it, and right away in there you see all the wave and movement and that sort of thing. Less issues regarding condition. It's a bit dry towards the ends, natural lightening around the front, but other than that, it's virgin hair. So again, the only reason why we might have the intake of breath through the teeth is because there's so much of it. And it's that, how many hours is that going to take me? Now, I want to best service you guys in what you need from me. So we need a sort of a, not so much of a discussion because there's quite a lot of us. So maybe we can do a show of hands and see which one we would like to see the Kerastraight Ultimate on. So first of all, Joe. Sorry, Joe. And second, Eloise. I'm hoping someone's going to put their hand up. Okay, so we'll go with Eloise for the Kerastraight Ultimate. And for the intense boost, we're going to go with Joe. Now, the amount of hair Joe has, we're going to get started straight away, and I'll explain more of the process as we have time to do that. Eloise's hair is naturally drier. It's long hair. It's always going to be that little bit drier towards the ends. The feeling of the hair as well. Something when I'm assessing hair for Kerastraight, it's very much about what I get as much information as I can in as little time as possible. So there's a lot of touching and feeling the difference between what her hair feels like when it's had very little sort of sun, sea, sand, as well as styling, brushing, tying up and all of that. And then how it feels down here. All in all, it is a little bit frizzier down here, but it's mostly this dryness, potentially a little bit weaker, but she doesn't fall into that category of not being able to get her hair long. A lot of Kerastraight clients, or something that people say about Kerastraight, is that for many people, particularly Joe's hair type, they're able to grow their hair longer than they ever have been able to, because it infuses that strengthening and repairing into the hair. So on one hand, we've got the ability to change someone's life in some respects, to have hair that they could never have had without having the treatment. And on the other hand, we've got someone who just really wants complete manageability, to take control of the hair again instead of the hair controlling them. The first step is preparing the hair for the treatment. We use pre-treatment cleanser, and we're going to be leaving it on the hair for 10 minutes. In my head, I'm just going through whether or not I want 5, 10 or longer. Occasionally we do longer if I think there's going to be quite a high degree of resistance with good condition. Wouldn't necessarily do that on badly conditioned hair. 10 is going to be perfect here. So if we could have one shampoo with pre-treatment cleanser, then a second shampoo with pre-treatment cleanser, left on for 10 minutes. And what we're going to do is cover the hair. So we can use a shower cap or cling film, but something to cover it, to keep the hair moist, because the process is about softening the hair, enabling us to get the protein and keratin that we're working with into the hair a little later. So the hair doesn't dry and the process stop, we just keep that moisture in with a cover.
Okay, perfect.
Those of you that have been using Kerastraight so far, you will notice today that there are a few new tricks and tips. One of them being the shampoo and leaving it on longer and putting a plastic cap on it. There are a few more like that you will see today that have been just launched yesterday. So you will learn them today.
Hot off the press, as they say.
Yes, hot off the press.
So let's begin
Do you want me to go?
with this. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. I want to, sorry, just back to that. Just want to point out the new strap line. Gorgeous, made easy. That is exactly what a Kerastraight woman is. She's someone who wants gorgeous, made easy. Hair that looks and feels better, but simply and easier to manage. And that's what Kerastraight delivers. All of those things there. Now, I just want a quick show of hands. If you are already working with Kerastraight, just pop your hand up. And those that aren't, I know it seems silly that I should be able to work it out, but it's much more visual for me. So pop it up. So if you're not working with it, just pop your hand up. Right, okay. Those that are, no, actually it doesn't matter which one you are. I'm looking at the wrong slide. So, it all begins, like I said, with consultation. And it only takes a few seconds when someone sits in your chair, and if you said to them, how does your hair feel? who comes into the salon feeling absolutely amazing and perfect, like they need nothing doing? No one. They come to you with a problem. And if you ask them how their hair feels, within a few seconds, so we've started on quite a positive, tell me how your hair feels. We're being smiley, positive. They're about to go really negative. Nobody sits there, it feels amazing, it feels great. They might say, I really loved it last time, but they're back again, because it's not feeling like that. Usually they're going to say something like, it's got harder to manage, it's taking me too long to dry it. My hair feels dry. That must happen a lot here. I've only been here, this is coming up to the end of a week, and even my hair feels dry, and there's only 3 of them. Damaged. A lot of people say their hair's damaged. Even people whose hair isn't damaged think it's damaged. Marketeers have done a wonderful job to make women and their hair feel completely inadequate. Because if you don't have hair that's thick and lustrous and shines in every lighting condition, it's damaged. Weak. Not everybody feels this, but you're going to get it coming through where people feel like, my hair's breaking, it's snapping. I use my irons and I know I shouldn't. It's damaging, makes it weak. Frizzy. I'm imagining hair frizz is a big problem. When you have humidity, air conditioning, humidity. Perfect for massive hair. People have it done, step outside and bing, it's big. That's our inroad. They're all the things that indicate that this person, in some way, shape or form, is completely suited to have Kerastraight. And there it is, the gorgeous made easy. Hair that's brought under control, hair that you control. This gentleman here, Jez, I know him very, very well. He would probably describe me as a ball breaker, which if you know what that expression means, it means that I give him a real hard time. When Trevor Sorbie began their journey to find a keratin treatment, to find a smoothing treatment, it's not just a case of, which one looks good, which one sounds good. We do months of testing. We have demands that we make of our partners, and being ambassadors for Kerastraight has only happened because they were able to satisfy all of our needs. So we wanted transparency. We wanted to know what's in it. Why is it in it? What does it do? How does it do it? All of those things is, to me, what Kerastraight was about. We had a couple of companies that came to demonstrate their product, and some of them didn't even get past the initial what they were there for, because even just asking a question like, what are the ingredients in here that are either active or help to change the shape and structure of the hair? The first company that was shown the door told me that, think of it like a magic potion. Do you feel comfortable working with something that you have no idea what or how it does it? I certainly don't. And as a company, we couldn't. So Kerastraight and its transparency and its education really started coming together once we became involved as their ambassadors, giving them the hardest possible time. And we've done that on your behalf as well, because it means that now we've got something which is easy to teach, easy to deliver, and maximises business. It also maximises results, and that's partly all contributing to why we're here today, all of us. So it's a semi-permanent hair repairing, straightening and smoothing system. It says it lasts up to 4 months. We had a debate this morning, and we're going to say 3 months in Dubai because of the water. And that, I think, is a fair assessment and something that has to be taken into account, because from the stories I've heard, there are a lot of issues with not just lifestyle in and out of the swimming pool and those sorts of things, but also climate and what people are getting through their shower head when they don't have water softeners and all of those sorts of things. I want to draw attention to the awards. This product is an award-winning product. the Harper's Bazaar Hair Awards 2012, 13 and 14, and the Salon Reader's Choice Award. Now this man here I know even better than Jez. I've worked for Trevor for 20 years, and from his point of view, he puts me in charge of everything technical, and we put Kerastraight in our technical services because we feel that the education, the knowledge that you require to do this applies an awful lot to the changes we make to hair as colourists or as people who perm or smooth and straighten hair. So it's in the technical side, so I look after that. But what's he interested in? He's interested in what it does for clients primarily, and it delivers results. Then he's worried about us as the team. He wants us to be delivering results. That's what we do. And then his third is business. It means his salons are making more money. They're bringing in more clients. And it's not just from doing Kerastraight. We have the great fortune of when you Google safe smoothing treatments or those kind of things, there's an article that appeared in the Daily Mail which talks about, do you really know what your hairdresser is doing to you? And it talks about people's experiences with these treatments whereby they were told to wear a mask, or the person was wearing a mask, or there was a fan being used to extract smoke, and all of these horrible, horrible things. And then right underneath that article, it said, the safe alternative, Kerastraight with Trevor Sorby. And that comes up on Google, and the number of women that call us based just on that alone. And it's then our jobs in Trevor Sorby to not only have them as a Kerastraight client, but to talk about cutting and colouring. And so then they become a Trevor Sorby fan, and then we're getting 3 times out of the client as we would, and they only came through the door for Kerastraight. A lady from Liverpool, Barbara Daly. Are there many people in here from the UK? Anybody? Yeah, a few? So you'll know a little bit when I'm talking about this, but Liverpool is an area in the northwest of the country, and the women, particularly the younger women, take a great, great pride in how they look. And there is a look in Liverpool which is not uncommon. Girls who are going out on the Saturday or the Friday night will literally be walking around the town centre with their rollers in, because they won't take them out until they're just about to leave. And they have their tracksuits on, they're around the town, and they've got rollers in their hair. And it's completely and utterly normal. It's not one of those things where people... When I heard that, and well, actually when I saw that, because I thought it was an urban legend, but it really happened. But what I'm trying to illustrate is about pride in how they look, wanting to look the very best. And Barbara says that it showcases the cut and colour work to its full, because not only now are they cutting and colouring, but they're also having Kerastraight. Thank goodness for Photoshop. I want to point out here safety and innovation. All of us work with colour in our salons. All of us expect new colours, new shades, new technologies. Why should it be any different for the keratin market? We would only, as Trevor Sorby, work with a company that doesn't stop moving forward. So innovation and change has to keep coming. So it's not a negative that there's a few changes to, even when some of the stuff that is here has been printed, that there's been tweaks made, there's advancements made, there's formulation changes. All of those are about innovation, and that's the kind of company that we as a business want to work with, because through innovation our business will grow. The safety, unparalleled safety, the approval throughout the European Union with some of the strictest safety standards in the world, the fact that it is completely and utterly transparent and has passed every test that it has been put through for safety, and not just for the client but also the hairdresser. once you've got Kerastraight, never ever lose sight of how much change that delivers to people. Also think about your column, think about your salon if you own your salon. Get everyone talking about it, create that wow factor, and the cheapest, easiest, simplest way is social media.
Sorry.
It's alright. This bit, I don't want to use the slide. Those of you that are using Kerastraight, I'd like a few bits of feedback. What do your clients say about it? Anybody, please.
It's more easy to manage.
Sorry, just speak up a little.
It's easier to manage. when
Easier
they
to
have it.
manage. Anything else?
Shine.
Shiny, fantastic. Not much feedback from the clients.
Less frizzy.
Less
Still
frizzy.
less frizzy. But at the
Fantastic.
same time, there is one more thing. People with curlier, finer hair, I find that, you know how we say that you don't lose the curl, but sometimes you do tend to lose the curl if it's really fine. That's something that I've been stuck with. I've spoken to Richard about it before.
Yeah, we're
So
going to be covering that.
points as he will tell us when to ask questions
We'll
that time.
absolutely cover that. The thing, I've already mentioned it, we had literally probably 20, 30 people in each salon that couldn't grow their hair. It was never getting past this sort of length. You know, you speak to them like, you're still growing your hair? And it's like, I've known you now for nearly 20 years and you're still growing your hair and it's still no longer than here. And it's that fragility. You know, some hair types can't get past that. There is always the factor that some people's growth cycle, we all know that growth cycle lasts different lengths of time. But you know when you can see that, and that's because your hair's coming off. It gets that long, it gives up, and you're just going to stay about there. Having the strength that Kerastraight gives has enabled them to get their hair longer than they've ever been able to. On the other side of it, those people that have always just been like, cut my hair off, I can't stand it, it just gets so big, it's so difficult, the less hair I have the better. They've been able to get their hair longer. They've been able to have hairstyles that they've always wanted but never been able to have. That's what's been the life-changing side of Kerastraight. It's alright, This we've completely and utterly covered by telling you not just what our salon thinks, but you know, it's the new area. We've always cut and coloured hair. We've also, when we think of colouring, we've sort of put perming in there, but we have found that this is now our third best-selling part of our business. So cutting, colouring, and Kerastraight. These are the styling products which we are going to skip because they're not quite available here yet. So that's a little preview, but we may, if we have time, just whiz through those a little later.
Just so that you'll know, we're waiting on municipality approvals for those products. Only then we can launch them. Ultimate oil is available, but not the styling.
Okay. So KS Ultimate, we're going to come to in just a moment.
Yeah, she's just getting ready.
We're going to go for our intense boost.
Amazing.
I'm going to invite Gina. Does everyone know Gina?
Yeah, most people know me.
Gina is our key accounts manager and our trainer for Rapid General Training.
Perfect. Okay.
So what we're going to observe is the consultation and deciding, because this is done using the masks, either protein mask or moisture mask. So the first question everyone has, which do you use and when and why and how?
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll run through the questions that I would ask her before I decide what to use. I would use the protein mask more for a repairing aspect, whereas for the moisture I want to hydrate the hair. So I'm just going to ask the client a few questions. So your hair's coloured, right? Yeah. Has it got highlights in there as well as a base colour, or is the light whitening on the ends just from the sun and bits? Yeah, so generally you'd have an all-over colour.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you find it quite white around the front or quite white hair all over?
Quite white.
Yeah, sorry, the silver.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Just mostly round the front.
Okay, so it's not so bad at the back.
No.
Okay.
Not that I've noticed.
And what type of shampoo and conditioner are you using at the minute?
The keratin from the treatment that I had before, I still use.
Okay, perfect.
Just to ask you a couple of questions. High degree of fade. Now, obviously, we've discussed there's certain environmental factors here in Dubai, but what else does that sort of signify or signal?
The hair's very porous on the ends, or damaged on the ends, wherever it may have come from, whether it be chemical damage or environmental damage.
So porosity is something that I know every single one of you will be dealing a lot with. So what can we do about porosity?
Ideally, we want to use the treatment to kind of close the cuticle down so we're not losing so much of the colour out of the hair. We want to close the cuticle and keep it closed, ideally, just by changing the condition of the hair, taking it down to a lower pH. Because after colouring, it can be quite, leave the cuticle open.
And what would you do in a prescriptive way here?
For the hair, to close the cuticle.
So what we're going to plan is a longer journey,
Yeah.
because one treatment is going to be great, she'll notice an instant difference, but we're able to offer a plan to get her hair back on track to solve some of these problems, hopefully permanently. And when I say hopefully, the hair that's very porous and very dry, it will have to be cut. Not now, so don't panic. But we can make it look and feel great. But what's growing through, we can give strength and reinforcement to so that the same thing doesn't happen. We're about to break the cycle that she's probably been going through for a long time of her hair getting drier and lighter and more porous. That's about to change.
Okay.
So we prescribe a course, and it would be in the first instances.
For me, I may differ completely. When I look at the hair like that, rather than put more protein to it, I want to put some more moisture into the ends. That's where I would want to start, because she's already had a keratin treatment before and using a keratin.
How long ago was the keratin treatment?
How long ago?
June.
June. But she's still using the shampoo and conditioner.
And what sort of treatment was it?
It was the keratin straightening treatment.
Did it
The
make
global
your hair?
keratin.
Oh, it's here.
I think
Okay.
it's the global keratin, right?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be formaldehyde free in there, so it's not completely straightening. It didn't make your hair dead flat and straight.
It did, but it didn't really work.
Okay.
That's,
So I would suggest
Start with
The-
protein.
no. Here we can actually do
Mix.
two.
Oh, mix it
Mix
together.
them together.
Fun.
On the head, we can use the two different treatments. I agree with you about the moisture,
Yeah,
and
just from
immediately
looking at
the appearance is it's like I want to infuse moisture.
yeah.
But one of the things with moisture, if there's no structure, you're sort of putting the moisture in and rinsing it straight back out. We need something that the moisture and the type of ingredients that the moisture comes from to be able to sit in the hair. So we need to put the structure back.
Okay.
So in the root area where we're not too bad,
Yeah.
let's do moisture there,
Mhm.
and then in the ends, the protein. But just to show everyone, because of the sensitivity, so how easily things can get inside the hair, we're going to use moisture all the way through the lengths and ends through there, because it's almost like a band
Yeah.
through there. That's where we're going to use the protein mask, and then the moisture mask everywhere else. So we shampoo the hair with
Pre-treatment cleanser, just to remove any barriers and open up the cuticle. Then we towel dry the hair, apply the treatment, and then we can apply the treatment into the hair, whether you dry it or use a comb just to keep it smooth and dry it, so it's 100% dry, either way. And then after it's completely dry, you just rinse the hair, so no shampooing after the intense boost treatment. Okay?
excellent. So Joe's going to go to the backwash.
And also to mention maybe that it can be used for in-depth planning.
Yeah, so this is not just for someone who's had a keratin treatment. It's very much something that, as we talked about those key things, someone who says that their hair's dry, someone who says that their hair's weak, someone who says that it's difficult to manage, the first step to them becoming, I suppose, brand believers, people who trust Kerastraight, trust their hair to Kerastraight and to you, that they can start off very gently and very inexpensively. So that would be an ideal opportunity as a starter to get somebody into what you can do through Kerastraight. Let's move over and back, if that's all right. That's good. So, we've shampooed the hair. Girly did. Now, currently, for those existing users, we were drying 80%. Yeah? Maybe we can close the door a little. Is that possible?
Sorry?
Close the door,
Close
perhaps?
the door, possibly. Come and see closer.
Okay. So, we've shampooed the hair. Normally, we'd be reaching for the hairdryer now and drying the hair 80%. This is where I take off my Kerastraight hat and put on my Kerastraight hat. What on earth is 80%? Can anyone tell me? I think every single one of us, if we asked for 80%, would do something completely and utterly different. And we'd have everything from almost dry to who knows what. The purpose of drying the hair is that you want the product to not be overly diluted. The recommendation already has changed to 50%. So the newest recommendation is 50%. I'm driving Jez mad at the moment, and we should probably see very soon a towel dry, which I think makes much more sense to hairdressers, because you say towel dry well, and for some reason we all would do a very, very similar thing, less different than this percentage. Now, I do two things. The first thing is that this root area is 80% already, right now. And all I've done is put my hands on it. We are a little bit more damp through the ends. And given the length of this hair, if this hair was shorter, I wouldn't. But what I am going to do is just dry this a tiny bit. And because I don't want to send it too much towards the being dry, I literally am just going to use a medium heat and just a little bit on there. Because what I want to create is a tiny bit more uniformity, so that this hair looks as dry as this hair, but I don't want to point that the nose. It's the nose without a nozzle,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So you don't want a nozzle because it concentrates the airflow too much. You must spread the airflow, avoiding this area here, working on that. The other scenario here, using exactly the same head of hair, is that this, if it was previously treated and still had a smoothing effect, I wouldn't bother with this bit, because we're going to just be building upon what we've already got in there. So I wouldn't actually need the hair to be completely even from here to here. Does everyone follow that? It's not so far away from what we do when we colour hair. You know, we look at evenness of porosity, how hair will behave when we take a colour through. If you see hair that's really porous, you're not going to put hair colour on there for a long time because it's going to suck it straight in. You're going to end up with dark ends or a result that's not nice. So just for a few seconds, I'm going to use the dryer. I won't need to say anything because it's quite obvious what I'm doing. And that's literally as much as I'm going to do, because as we work through that, those last little bits are going to be done. So seconds with a dryer. Pre-treatment spray. We're using pre-treatment spray. A little later in the presentation, you'll see that there will be a pre-treatment spray plus, which has been refined for the brand new ultimate treatment, in the sense that the ultimate treatment was a refined and improved version of previous treatments. The next logical step is that the carrier, one of the most important parts of the treatment also needed to be updated and refined to work with an even lower pH more effectively. So that's why it's coming. Anyone thinking like, well, why do they keep changing anything? It's to get better and better. So, thank you. I'm not suggesting any of you do this, but if you ask someone to pop a spray on people's hair, they come along and they do that. There we go. This is such a vital step in the process. This is what we describe in the UK as like a sugar net technology. It draws the product into the hair. It helps get the product in. Protein is a complex chain of amino acids. That means it's fairly bulky when you look at it under the microscope. To get inside of the hair, it needs a helping hand. One of the ways I describe it, it's a bit like the protein arriving at the hair and having its name down at the door at the nightclub. It can get in. It's really, really important that this is applied section by section, and the hair looks an even amount of dampness. You don't have to have perfectly straight sections. We're not going to cut the hair, but we need to divide this into more workable sections. It's just as important at the root as it is at the end. Hello.
Hello, I'm only waiting to hold.
Okay, I'm all right.
You want to keep in your hand?
Yeah. So even down on the ends. Where the hair's particularly porous, you can concentrate a little bit more. But what I'm doing is combing each section. And depending on the hair type, we may decide that we split the back into two, which I'm going to do for the next section because there is no shortage of hair. Just combing that product through. Shorter hair, I use a wrapping motion. So taking the hair across and across, so that what we can do is spread the product through. I'm looking for it to look a little bit more damp from root to tip, sort of evenly, so that when I look at it, we haven't got really dry, sopping wet. It's about distributing it. Now I'm just going to section through here quite quickly. When you're showing, whether it's people in your salon or your staff members, because I'm sure that all of you are going to have people ask you questions about what you did and what was going on. I can't stress enough that when I'm demonstrating, part of the reason we take so much time with this step is to purely emphasize that this isn't just a quick squirt. You have to get it on properly. That leads straight away to a natural question of what happens if I don't? The answer is that you can't really have any confidence in the sort of result you're going to get, because you haven't got that helping hand. So some areas of the hair, it may well go in without too much of a problem. But other places, that bouncer's going to give them a really hard time and send them away because they've got the wrong shoes on. It's that kind of thing that you can't have any guarantee. So to get the guarantee, work with the idea that this is a vital step in the process. It's not just it makes the hair feel nice part. It's part of the process.
You just leave it down like that when you spray it. You don't flip it back up again.
Because I'm going to go back and before, I'll explain in a second. Yeah, what I was going to say about questions, I forgot to mention, is that periodically I'm going to sort of ask if there's any questions. That's the best time for me to deal with the chunk that we've just done, and it stops me going off on a tangent, because I'm really, really good at that. I start on one subject and finish on another and can't even remember how or why. Now, once this is, you can, if you have, and we've all got them, that client whose hair is just so knotty, it's got a mix of highlight, all sorts in there, sort of hair that you sort of think, shall I tell her to come in 45 minutes early so someone can comb it through? That sort of thing, you can use Tangle Teaser at this stage. It's not, the comb is purely a distributing tool. I'm not, you know, you've got, amongst all of you here today combined, there's hundreds of years of experience. So don't forget your experience. Does anyone else need pen or paper? Because it's something that these notes are so valuable to refer back to. So, from a client comfort point of view and a product wastage point of view, I'm not looking for the hair to be dripping. I need enough on for it to be damp, and I need it to look wet. More porous areas, a little bit more product. Okay. It's okay. Now in the salon, would I be doing this faster? Of course I would. But like I said, it's that emphasis and reinforcement that this is a key step in getting the best Kerastraight ultimate result. Okay? So from this morning, Ruksha, what are the main things that you would give as words of advice from everything that we did this morning and from what you already know from using the treatment? What are the key things for people to remember?
Key things, of course, are to make sure that the hair is not over dried, like Nathan explained, that it should be just about, well, no percentage, no percentages, it shouldn't be dry. You need root area not to be dried at all. If at all ends up porous, slightly, very quickly, few seconds. If it can be achieved by just a little quick towel dry at the ends, keep it at that. Second, now the pre-treatment cleanser, vital part, to be distributed evenly throughout the hair. Consultation, of course, is key to identify how many strokes of iron and how hot your irons are going to be, what the client
Any questions at all?
Yes, I have a question. When I'm doing it in the salon, I do the same thing as you do, but I section it a bit more neater, and I actually tend to pin them up quarterly. Because what I find here is with the ACs that's on, often the hair gets so dried out before you can put the treatment on.
Okay.
Is that okay, or do you want it to be drying out on the hair?
You don't want it to be drying out on the hair, and the thing that you will find, you're an experienced Kerastraight user, so how long have you been using it?
Since we had it, yeah.
Right. So
5 years.
you are able to use absolute reason and logic to come up with a solution to a problem you're having. The hair gets dry, it doesn't if I pin it up. That's great. That's what experience teaches you. Working with the product, you start to find little bits that, there's one chair in our salon that is right under the AC, and everybody knows, don't go there if you need to keep the hair wet for the haircut. You go somewhere else. You go there when you're looking to get it dry as fast as possible. And that's experience from working in our salon. So it's exactly the same with haircuts. With Kerastraight. So, the only thing I would recommend is that where you have the ability, I always give it a check before I begin my application. That's the only thing that I'm not sure about pinning it all up. Maybe once you've got to this stage, so this would have been up in quarters, did you say? Yep. So at this stage, I do a check because I'm looking for that porosity. I'm looking for where is it already absorbed and gone. And as I expected, these ends, they're not dry, but they don't look the same as this. And I'm going to use a little bit more on there. I'm also going to do something. You know how when a client is checking the result and they start doing this on these curly bits there? A little bit of this on my gloves, and I just make sure I've got enough on there because it's difficult to spray around that face. That face? Not that face. The face. Sorry, did I just squirt you? So just making sure that they've got that dampness on too. Now, when you're showing other people, in particular the youngest members of your team, the ones who have the least experience, I'm going to just section this down. I'm going to move around a little bit so that some of you may not be able to see at some points, but I'm going to make sure I move so that you can all see at different points. So, thank you. Two to 3 centimetre sections. What I'm just going to do, I'm going to start off if that's all right, and then I'm going to get you to join us.
Sure.
Because I want to stand here. Okay. So, application, we need to make sure the hair is covered, not onto the scalp. Has anyone been asked why you can't put it on the scalp? Any clients been like, why don't you just put it everywhere?
Yeah.
What was your explanation?
And the hair absorbs it closer to the scalp.
Maybe sometimes it stings a little bit the scalp.
Yeah.
Does it
so-
dry the scalp?
Itching dries the scalp, yeah.
So, what do we know existing users about the pH of Kerastraight? It's low. The skin naturally is 5.5, maybe sometimes 6, but generally 5.5. The scalp, when we put a pH of 1.5, it's a little bit irritating. So it's not designed for application onto the scalp. As close as you can. And it's not going to damage. You're not going to suddenly end up with a scalp that's got blisters or things like that. But it's not going to be comfortable. And it could, certain skin types that are very sensitive, it could make it dry and flaky for a little while. Because it's taken the pH of the skin so low. It's a bit like the difference between using a wonderful foaming face wash and a bar of soap. You know how you get that tight feeling? And it's that sort of difference. That's what the low pH will do. So, we apply the product and smooth it through the hair. Now, I want to just also, I was talking about the younger members of the team and I went off on a tangent. Combing through. When you hold the comb completely parallel to the hair and draw it through, very little product comes off. The second you angle, you scrape product off. And that's not what you want to be doing. We're distributing. And it's a really, really silly little thing, but the number of young hairdressers that you see that when they go in with a comb, they go in like that. So there's the hair, they go in and they comb, scraping off everything that you need to be on the hair. The whole purpose is to have the product surrounding the hair. And are you familiar with the phrase, a light bulb moment?
Yes.
Yeah? Like in the cartoons, there's this light bulb, bing! They suddenly realise why their Kerastraight that they've been working on and learning how to do hasn't worked. Because they were putting it on and taking it straight off. And it's a helpful hint and tip. So as they're educators and people training them, you'll be loved forever for letting them know. Okay, do you want to join in now?
Sure.
So we can see that we've got a wetness to the hair. It's covered. I know there's not too much product because when I'm doing the straight in, there's not product being scraped off. If the hair was overloaded, I would still get a little bit of that line of cream.
I can have a try.
Sorry. Anybody any questions about application?
Sometimes when you're putting a product on, I've noticed sometimes if you comb it, there's like a little almost powdery evaporation thing. Do you know what I mean?
Just explain a little bit more.
It's like almost when you're combing the product through, sometimes there's a bit of powdery stuff that evaporates into the
Drying
air.
off? You mean like drying
No,
off the
just
product?
combing the
No.
product through. It's almost
It's like a powdered cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally, not always. I just wanted to know.
Is the hair hot? From
When you're applying the product, right,
Yeah.
and you've combed it through, you're letting it sit, you will see it. Not always.
When you say letting it set, is that when
Just
you...
comb it like what you're doing now.
Just
combing it
now?
Through. Yeah. Sometimes.
Almost as if you put baby powder on to comb the hair through, you see that residue
Yeah, it's
melting?
like,
Something like that.
Really?
yeah.
I've never had that.
You don't know.
That's a possibility, a very strong
It's a
possibility.
bit like, electricity, when you see the heat on the road, it's kind of that,
Yeah.
like that.
What I'm doing is I'm not looking at you in disbelief. I'm looking at you trying to work out.
Maybe from the age.
I don't know if it's something I'm doing. You know what I mean?
And it's dusty.
It's dusty or like, that.
Is it hazy or dusty?
It's hard to explain really. It's like when you see the road and the heat and it's like that.
Like a mirage.
Would you think it was dry or wet?
When it's wet,
I'm trying to look also to I know what you're talking about.
Because when I put maybe when it's the comb's doing fast.
You know, you've experienced
Yeah,
it?
I experienced it.
I'm going to have to ask it because I've never experienced it, and there are.
It's like an aura or something.
Is it like the soft glow lens? We start to make people look gorgeous. Any particular type of hair you've noticed it on?
Not really. Just random hairs.
I'm just wondering. I mean, the protein itself, when it's dry, goes powdery. But when in the liquid form, there isn't a vapour.
Just when you pull the comb through it.
Yeah.
Almost as if it's static, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds like a chemical
As if it's
reaction.
static.
I'm just wondering if it might be. I'm in one respect I'm clutching at straws, but in another respect I'm just wondering why I've never heard of it before. And it could be something in the water reacting with the product. That if there's a high sort of metallic salt content or something,
Yeah,
Because-
that makes sense.
even though this doesn't contain oxygen, which is, or ammonia, it has ammonia. So, like this, and
Yeah.
do you want to just, I know this sounds silly, I want to see if you can recreate it for me.
It doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't.
No.
No, it's not all the time.
I'd say for me, every 5th or 6th Kerastraight that I do, I would have it. Maybe even less.
Where you work, do people come from the same area, or do they come from everywhere? Okay. Could we have some gloves, please?
There's one more set here.
Lovely. We had the conversation this morning as well about people asking, if it's so safe and lovely and gentle, why do you wear gloves when you use it? And they look at you with suspicion, like you're lying to them. And it's like, well,
That's another one.
I put colour on people's heads, but I do that 10, 12, 15 times a day. My hands wouldn't be able to take that, just as a client wouldn't be able to take that. They colour their hair once every 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then someone in the audience was like, and would you wash the dishes without gloves? And it's like, that's a very good example. Washing the dishes is quite a safe thing to do, but many people put gloves on to do it. That's why I wear them. Low pH, it's going to dry my hands. I don't want dry, horrible hands. It's as simple as that. A number of people from a sort of a chemical background, I would say, where they're doing chemical straightening, try and get the hair as straight as possible right now. And you see them smooth, don't move, don't breathe, stay still. Nothing like that is going to affect the result here, because this is absorption, this isn't restructuring yet. So we can comb the hair where we want it, and wherever is the safest to comb it, which is away from the face, because we've just talked about hands and scalps. The last thing you want is a great load of product-soaked hair all over your face. So I direct it downwards so that I can...
Would I spray pre-treatment spray on that again? Because it's dried off at the end slightly on the side where she's finer.
Yeah, you can add just a... Not too much.
Not too much.
Just a little dampening
Sprinkle.
spray.
Maybe the whole lot.
So-
altogether.
At the sides, comb it down. I'm not combing it back straight away, because then otherwise I've got a section that's that thick. So always do the spreading like that, and then position.
Nathan, do you want to fill Joe's hair while it's got the product on, or shall I rinse it straight off?
Dried in.
Yeah, it's dried in.
Yes, we'd like to have
Okay,
it.
I'll bring her through.
So we're about to have a show and tell with Joe. We're going to have a little feel if you've never used it, or if you haven't sort of got quite yet to the point where you've tried out the Intense Boost. The Intense Boost mask has been dried into Joe's hair. So we shampooed, pre-treatment cleanser. That was, did you leave that on?
I did, I left the second one on for 5 minutes.
So 5 minutes the second shampoo, then the product applied. For Joe's hair, was it about 10 mils?
Probably a bit less.
Bit
Because
less.
I did the moisture on the top and the protein on the end.
Oh, about 5
Yeah.
mils of each.
Yeah, maybe so.
But, yeah.
Yeah, didn't need a lot at all.
Could you do like what she did, protein, moisture on the top? I mean, you did protein on the ends and
Yeah.
moisture on the top.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So could you sort of blend them in together?
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
if
touch
you
together.
needed to, I mean, I have, and it's not a prescribed Kerastraight technique. Kerastraight, the company, would recommend that you do one and then do the other. I'm a bit of a hairdresser when it comes to I put them in together. but I do understand the technical side of it, that you're not going to get the maximum benefit of either by doing that. So it's a technical decision that you would make with discussion with your client and what is going to be their need, and also using your own information, sorry, not your information, the information the client's given you. So we're nearing the end of our application.
Maybe also stress about application of how much I use.
Yeah, I mean, this hair is, for me, it's quite long. It's not a shocking amount of hair, but it's quite thick. And those ends are proving to be porous, so we are using more product. Now, I don't know what is right and how it works here in Dubai, but for somebody with different lengths, different thicknesses, we charge different amounts based on the amount of product.
Same as us.
Because right now, and I hope what you're able to pick up is that there isn't really any wastage as to what I'm doing on the hair. You know, I did a training session once, and this hairdresser was literally, you know, may as well have just got the bottle and done that. There was so much product on the hair. Then got the comb, combed it through, and using the scraping way, and flips it on the floor. My jaw actually made a noise as it hit the floor. It was like, boom. Do you know how much money you've just thrown on the floor? And we might be in a training session, but that's complete wastage. Why have you? I wanted to make sure it's everywhere. So we've just been through step by. It's only happened to me about 2 or 3 times in my entire career that I was almost ready just to time to leave, because it was just so shocking what we'd been through, and then to just disregard everything that we'd talked about, and to do something like that where you just slap it on. I'm hoping you're picking up. This is anything but slapping stuff on. There's a real reason for everything. There isn't a made-up pretend it looks nice like that. You know, this is about a heartfelt application, because I want desperately to give the client the best result. But more importantly, when my client leaves, I want her to go and tell her friend how amazing we are, how fantastic her hair feels, how brilliant it looks. That's how I'm going to continue to build my business and enable me to do more things, because the more I build our technical, the more budget I get given, which means I can do nice things that I really enjoy doing. You know, we do a lot of teaching and all of that sort of thing, but if my technical figures were struggling, I'd be taken off doing teaching and it'd be back in the salon doing my clients, because we need to make sure that, you know, like every single business, you're taking in your targets and all of that sort of thing. So the fact that this helps me dramatically in that, you'll see a little bit later, the technical side of our business, now 20% of it is coming from Kerastraight applications, which if you think that texture change, which was mostly perming and a little bit of chemical straightening, previous to having Kerastraight, was bringing in about 0.2% of the technical turnover. To grow something 20% in, I think it was 2000, I always get this figure wrong, 2009, it was when we took 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe it was 210. Whichever it was, it's a very short space of time to grow something 20%. And that's 20% of a lot, if that makes sense. We've got 5 salons, the technical turnover for them is pretty large. To take a 20% chunk of that and make that Kerastraight is an amazing amount of growth. So, having almost completed application, the next step is as familiar to current.
Need more?
Maybe just a
Just a spot.
Actually, I will need more because I'm going to do a recheck as well.
Okay.
Sorry. We're going to be a few minutes with that. So even when my section's diagonal, I'm still having my cone so it's straight. I want to mention in application, because we talked about Joe's hair being a very good example of the weaker hair and the hair that could benefit from the repairing elements and that sort of thing. Now, what I also want to mention is that sometimes, has anyone experienced or ever heard of or seen hair breakage from protein? Yeah? Yeah. So that
Ah, I just saw it. I just saw it. I really did when in the sun.
The powder.
Yeah, just there, up.
So we're not crazy, are we?
No, you're not.
And we didn't start finding things in previous.
I used to get the powder really intense.
no, this is
This is
I
a mist.
think I might have
it's
just seen
a
it.
fume.
Yeah.
It's a fume or a mist or something. Yes, you see that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Maybe it's
You're not alone. I did actually see that.
maybe there's a sun. Maybe you're sitting in a sunny spot.
No,
The
it
heat.
happened to me in Macarthur as well.
Ah,
There's no sun there.
there's no sun there. Okay.
In
No, the
we've
sun
got
not
two
in
summits.
Mercator.
That one has
Okay.
no windows.
But what you will have is spotlights. And you know how if you have a cigarette or something like that through a spotlight,
No, we
You don't see it.
smoke in Dubai.
No,
I know.
He's making a comparison only.
And you only see the beam of light. So you'll only see it when you're sat in a certain seat probably, where there'll be one bulb that will be doing that. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. My mind is now going to be thinking of the reason why. The only way that we progress as a business, as hairdressers, even within our own lives, is by not being afraid to make a mistake. And it was leading on from what you were saying that I was just worried I wasn't doing something right. And it's not wrong to be worried about doing something right, but don't let that hold you back from trying this, from doing something slightly different and new. And in other ways, within all the realms and parameters of safety and logic, play with the product a little bit. It's very technical, but so is putting hugely dangerous chemicals on people's hair and changing the colour completely. Yet we feel no problem doing that because we're so familiar. We speak the language of colour, we understand it straight away. You know, you might have, and it happens to me still, you might have the odd one where you finished applying and I'll see you shortly, someone will get your coffee and then I hope that works. It still happens, but it doesn't hold me back because I know in my heart of hearts and in my stomach, everything that I've done has been for a very logical reason and has a technical explanation somewhere inside it. And that's the bit that means I can do different things. Just before we do the next step, I have a little check of the hair. What I'm looking for is absorption. Is there anywhere where the product's been sucked in? So highly porous areas. If we were applying on Jo, by the time we've finished, I already know her ends would need a little bit more on. The thickness of the hair is a little bit to our advantage. In general, thick porous hair doesn't dry out as often. But then you also, it's a little bit warm in here, which means that the AC is not blowing straight on this. So if you do have that blowing on it, you might be experiencing a little bit of drying out. All we need to do is, we're going to fake this just for the camera. There's a little bit that's dried out. Just a little bit of product on, and just distribute the product through again. And now, to ensure that moisture is maintained and the product doesn't become dry, we cover the hair. You can use a cap if you use a cap. I've already mentioned it briefly, but you would take the cap, bring all the hair up into the cap, and then place the cap on. This isn't smoothing the hair yet. So when the client said, but it's not straight, it's not supposed to be.
That went wrong.
That's it. So what we're going to do, it's going to be a bit like making a bed. We're going to lay the hair in there. That's it, cut there. Back to the top. That's lovely. And then we're going to go around the sides. Now, what we're not doing is making this airtight and suitable for a space mission. This is about keeping moisture in. So, a little bit, it's just to cover and to protect it from direct air conditioning and that sort of thing. Sorry. That's perfect. Right, what we'd like to do now is we're going to have a short break, but before or as you're leaving the room, if you wouldn't mind having a quick feel of Joe's hair.
45 minutes or do you want a little bit longer?
Yes, so timing wise, I want the maximum amount of time. I want to deliver the maximum result that we can on the hair. There's nothing holding me back here. I haven't got to think of the other things we take into consideration. There's no colour, there's no excessive dryness, there's no excessive porosity. Basically, I should be able to get the best possible result. There's only one consideration that I have here. The movement in her hair is incredibly strong. As you go past, we can start timing this, but as you go past, just have a little look at her hair and even sort of touch, and you'll feel the springiness in that movement. Okay? So, how long for the break?
10 minutes?
10 minutes?
Is everyone going to feel Joe's hair on the way out?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Could you clap for us?
I guess we can do the clap now.
Yeah.
Just the one clap, or is it just one clap?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the question was, it takes 3 treatments to fully repair the hair. Now, the promise from Kerastraight about fully repairing your hair is that after 3 Kerastraight Ultimates, your hair will be back to its maximum optimal strength. So pretty much repaired. If you stop there, and that hair hasn't been cut off, that was the concern. As soon as the Kerastraight fades, you're back at the beginning. And it doesn't mean that you do one week, one the next week, and one the week after. It is still over the period of time, but the residual in there that you build upon will take the level of strength and repair up to its maximum. You then maintain that by regularly doing the treatments every 3 to 4 months. Here, we all agreed around about 3 months would be the marker in Dubai.
If you have a client and she doesn't want to do the Kerastraight, but she just want to do the Kerastraight, the protein or the moisture mask, you
Yeah.
can do it?
Absolutely, 100%. The whole idea is that this could be used as an introduction to Kerastraight, but it's also an entire service on its own that we call Intense Boost.